Roughly 2 years ago, I stumbled upon a game that's fairly well known in some circles but still obscure in most. When I saw this game on the Steam store costing about $5 and having an overwhelming number of positive reviews, I decided to take the plunge and see what it's all about. This game, which is bound to elicit confusion in some but a strong reaction in others, is called Cookie Clicker. No shame to its creators, but Cookie Clicker is one of the most absurd wastes of time I've ever played in my life. The entire point of it is to click on cookies. But clicking on cookies gives you access to upgrades that will give you unique ways of clicking cookies faster and more effectively, mining them with greater and greater efficiency, yielding exponential gains for your royal cookiedom, which is a word I just made up. Upon booting up Cookie Clicker, I blinked my eyes and 3 full hours had passed, with nothing to show for it but an enormous number of cookies clicked, 32 out of 637 achievements unlocked, and the sneaking suspicion that this is what drug addicts feel like. I uninstalled Cookie Clicker and never played that absolute fucking time vampire again. Now, obviously, this is not a review for Cookie Clicker, so you may wonder why I even bothered to bring it up, and that's for a couple of reasons. One being that My Little Universe, for better or worse, is the first game in years to bring back those same feelings I had with Cookie Clicker, albeit to a lesser degree. And the second being to know what you're getting into by playing a game like My Little Universe, which to some will feel like an immensely gratifying game full of content, and to others will feel like an absolutely wretched waste of time. What isn't a waste of time, though, is helping your favorite indie gaming channel out by liking this video and subscribing to the channel, as well as checking out our Patreon where you can get a bunch of cool perks like access to our amazing Discord community. My Little Universe starts with a tutorial that is seconds long and aims to get you into the game as quickly as possible. To say this game is simple to play would be putting it mildly. Aside from tapping the A button to build chunks of land or make selections from the menus, you really don't do much more than move the analog stick, unless you really want to. Your goal is to guide your little stick figure fella around chunks of barren land on isolated planets and get to work. Chop trees for wood, mine rocks for stone, break gems, chop hay, and gather whatever resources you need to get moving. All around you will be small white boxes indicating the cost to build land next to them. The act of gathering resources to build out these chunks of land to find more resources to build out more chunks of land is immediately addictive in a way that felt suspiciously familiar, as I alluded to in my opening. Maybe your first chunk of land will cost 10 wood, then the next chunk might cost 25 wood, then the next will cost 25 wood and 25 stone. Then you'll build a patch of land that produces an upgrade station for your axe, making wood chopping more efficient and granting you more wood at once. Before long, pieces of land requiring 1,000 wood or more will have you shrugging them off because you're so good at getting wood that it doesn't matter where you even put it. You know what I mean. Early on, there's a lot to like here. My Little Universe's graphics are bright and cheery, with colorful, varied biomes that are satisfying to unlock. It also plays great on Steam Deck at a solid 60 FPS. The various sounds you make harvesting each resource make the repetitive act of collecting them feel tactile and satisfying. The way you can set the game to automatically chop resources when you get near them and automatically switch tools to whatever is going to be most effective makes the game feel streamlined in a way that lots of similar titles don't. The ability to play with up to 3 other friends in split-screen co-op is also a great addition which can help you build out the planet more efficiently. The music is mostly pretty bland, but also totally inoffensive and passable enough without being distracting. As you build out land tiles, upgrade your tools and weapons, gather new types of resources, and ultimately build an archway that will let you travel to the next planet, your time on this planet may come to an end and you'll be whisked away to the next one where you'll basically do it all over again with more resources and more challenging enemies. Most of the enemies in My Little Universe are extremely easy to fight, with your automated sword swings taking a few hits and proper positioning to get rid of them in a timely manner. There are also larger boss enemies you occasionally fight, but they usually move slowly and have predictable, easy to dodge patterns. That said, the borderline insane respawn rate of some of your foes is a pain. In one swamp section of the second planet, I fought a boss whose moves were easy to dodge, but I repeatedly kept dying because around him would spawn 3 to 4 alligators, which would then respawn basically the moment I killed them. The combat in My Little Universe is too simplistic to accommodate a situation like this. It becomes a mess, with you wildly swinging your sword everywhere trying to take out the gators, getting caught on some bit of scenery that your character wants to chop to harvest the resources from, and having very little in the way of additional moves aside from a power ability that lets you hold down your attack button and release it for some extra oomph. You can also level up periodically once you've done enough gathering and fighting, with abilities like increasing the range of your axe or adding poison to your sword, but these abilities never felt very impactful, and many of them seemingly disappeared after an arbitrary period of time. The further I went, the more frequent, repetitive, and annoying these enemy encounters became, and though most were ultimately very easy, the constant respawning grated on me before long. But even with that aside, there's no scratching that itch in the back of my dumb little monkey brain that told me something about this game didn't feel quite right. And I think there's no better way to describe why this is the case than to explain that large chunks of my playtime in My Little Universe were spent not playing the game at all. On many an occasion, I would need an absurd amount of some kind of resources in order to keep building out land, and chopping or mining it would take goddamn forever. So I would tuck myself away in a corner by some trees where enemies couldn't sneak up on me, and I'd let my character automatically chop away at resources that would regularly respawn and leave the game be. I'd walk the dog, I'd do some dishes, and at one point I even played a different game on a separate device. When I came back, my little guy was still chopping away, and I had something like 10,000 units of wood available for building and could build a bunch of land masses at once. Yay! The more I did this, the more I realized the most actual fun I had with My Little Universe was when I was pretty much letting it play itself. And I think that's what happens when a game's main appeal is a constant, never-ending sense of progression. It's so easy for addiction to form when playing the game a few more minutes is guaranteed to yield material progress every single time. It's like one of those mobile games where you'd build something, require a certain amount of resources to build the next thing, and could pay some microtransaction to skip ahead and save yourself the time, except in this case, thankfully enough, without the microtransactions bit. And unironically, My Little Universe started out as a mobile game, and I can definitely tell. My Little Universe has a lot of content. I can't speak to how much faster you'll get through it if you play with 3 friends because I'm not nearly that popular, but at least solo, it's likely to take dozens of hours to get through everything it has to offer. But at least to me, that content lacks substance, with the entire game being a grind, with the reward being more grinding. There's no story, there aren't any compelling scenarios to work your way through, and even the mini dungeons that show up are just excuses to farm more resources or fight more generic enemies. It takes so little effort to make meaningful progress in My Little Universe that before long, it ironically struggles to feel meaningful at all. But let's tie this back to my initial point. My Little Universe feels like an idle game like Cookie Clicker meeting a resource gathering survival game, perhaps without many of the survival bits. I can't say I didn't sort of like it, though the line between genuine fun and involuntary addiction is a really thin one here. I even played it before bed because something about its repetition was just soothing, satisfying, and boring enough to help me get to sleep. I'm not kidding, and I don't even mean that as an insult. My Little Universe is a super chill game, and if you want something to veg out to while listening to a podcast or watching YouTube videos, it might be a great bet. Though I will quickly mention that some of the resources in the game may be hard for colorblind players to differentiate. The red gems and the purple gems looked really similar even to me, who's not colorblind at all, and I didn't see any sort of option to address this. Ultimately, cute, colorful presentation aside, the overwhelming goal of My Little Universe appears to be to fill time. It does that really well, almost disturbingly well. But these days, my free time is really limited, and the games I look for are ones that tell me an interesting story, present unique mechanics, or really make me think. My Little Universe is none of these things, and it's not trying to be. That means if you're like me, I have no idea why you'd ever play this. But if you're not, you might have a pretty good time.